Yeah.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come here live, talk about guns for an hour each night. And we're really late tonight because of Clover. What's the edit? He went long. No, because of Yankee, and then I hung out in Clover's chat, and then we hung out after. We got all kinds of interesting things happen off the scenes, or behind the scenes, whatever it's called. And we're late, so I apologize for that. For the people that listen on the regular, there's a bunch of people joining in. Well, there's 6 people joining in right now. Thanks for sticking with us for an extra hour. Looks like we got a new sub. Do you like that thing where every time you look at YouTube, it tells you how many new subs you got, or that there's a new sub? Kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it pulls too much focus on numbers, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And numbers that really don't get you anything.
Yeah, seriously. Well, again, I don't know. They gave you some encouragement, like you guys are talking about. You see the numbers grow. It's something to keep you going. There are other people out there that are interested in whatever I'm doing. Anyway, so we got some people joining us. We got Clover jumping in from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for the invite.
Yep, we got Gary jumping in from Kansas.
Thanks for the invite, sir.
How close are you to Nebraska?
Oh, a couple hours.
All right. Well, we'll have to see if there's some sort of a potential for a Gun Channel's mini meetup. We can get Sandhills and Travis. Would you be interested in coming up?
Possibility.
Think about that. Then we got Dano jumping in from Illinois. Hey, what if I drove all the way to Illinois, Dano? Would you want to meet up?
I'd have to think about it, to tell you the truth. I'm not so sure. Since we last met, I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll make plans, and maybe somewhere on the 21st or something. We'll see if we can't figure out a place to meet up.
Yeah, we'll see if you're on good behavior.
And then we got Woods jumping in. So is there no school tomorrow? You're just playing hooky.
No, I'm just staying up too late.
Right on. So you and Dano are both victims of such an interesting podcast. You can't even sleep without knowing what happened on our podcast.
True.
It's engineered that way, so I won't say sorry. I'm just going to say you're welcome.
Yeah, that's it. You nailed it.
Got people joining us out there. I'm all slap happy. I got some fucking good news today. No, it's fucking good news. I don't care. And this is my show, right? I can swear on my own show. I'm psyched. So I've also been in fucking chat since forever, it seems like. Where are we taking it today? Oh, no, that's your chat. Why am I watching Clover's chat? But I look at our own chat here. Back pocket carry guns. I'm watching the chat happen on Clover's replay. And I didn't realize I was watching a replay, so I'm seeing all the stupid chats come by. And I'm like, well, look at all the people. Oh, this looks like one of Clover's chats. Okay, so we have 14 people watching, and this is our actual chat. So there's Pancake Fart. Now I know where we are. Okay, I didn't take the dog out, so she's probably mad at me. I've been chatting, and I didn't take a break for to take her out.
If I could just talk to the audience for a moment. It's not you. He really is hyped up.
Oh, I'm hyped, dude. I know it. And Yankee got me all hyped up with Matt earlier. I don't know if anybody paid attention to that, but we started out that chat talking about the olden days, and then them guys got into one of their old-fashioned, I know better than you about all politics and healthcare, and that was one of our old go-tos. So I don't know. Maybe that was just a memories of 7 years ago, something like that. All right. So am I roboting? To you guys?
No, you're fine.
Yeah, okay.
No.
What do we got today?
Crackle?
I think that's a little bit of Clover's, but that's maybe what they're talking about. We're all going to deal with it because whatever. Back pocket carry, is this a good idea? We're going to talk about that today. It's Thursday, so it's training day. No wonder Dan will join us. And then what's your CCW? And then we got some other surprises and special guests, and I guess that's it. So where are we going to go with back pocket carry? I'm against it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I don't like sitting on it. I had a wallet gun, or a wallet, what should I say? A wallet holster for a little P3 AT, because I thought that was clever, but you're sitting on it all the time. So I didn't like it.
Exactly. You know, unless you enjoy sitting on a piece of ununiformed shaped steel, it's generally very uncomfortable.
Well, I'm a big guy too. I'm assuming that me sitting on a gun all the time is probably bad for the gun.
As
Yeah,
well as actually one of those things where it's not good for your back because it's going to shift your hips.
Like a big fat wallet can mess you up.
Yep, exactly.
That's a good point though about the gun. Yeah, we sit on that thing, and that's got to put stresses on it that I don't think they designed it for necessarily, right? Wasn't there some gun where if you squeeze the grip too tight, the mag popped out?
Well, I mean, what are the, you've got a mag release on there anyway. So, depending on how you sit or shift it or whatever,
I mean, it's not like it's
one in the chamber. You would get, one round, but I mean, if the mag was, that button had been tripped, then you probably would a second.
Worst case there I see is the worst thing that can happen in CCW is a single shot and then a misfeed, not a malfunction, but a non-feed, because then you're sitting there just pulling the dead trigger, and under stress, you realize that nothing's happening. You're going through the motions and you're just experiencing, release of stress, but you're not actually defending yourself.
All right. Yep.
So it's like that brings up a point: is back pocket better than off body? Or if Gibbs wants to put in.
Depends on off body, I think. We get into the whole off body thing. Guys want to mansplain to women a lot of times about purse carry, for example. And I'll defend the way that my wife has purse carried till the day I die, because she carries cross straps, so nobody's just going to jerk her purse away from her, and then the pocket is on the inside. I mean, and it's right there, so imagine a cross draw vest or something. I mean, it's a similar setup to like a tactical vest with a cross draw almost.
Yeah.
If you're set up correctly, off body is not that bad of a deal.
I think the off body is also a concern, like when you set your purse down and walk away from it, but obviously you just don't do that when you got a gun in it or whatever.
No, that's irresponsible gun ownership at that point. That's where I come down on it.
But the other thing about what you're talking about, I think, didn't the gun gals do a demo, or they're planning on doing a demo where you can have the gun staged in your hand, in your purse, so it's still concealed. You're not brandishing, but you're walking through the parking lot with your hand on your gun.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what my wife does.
Yeah.
And my wife also, when she takes, they don't have a rule against having a gun at work, so she's never asked, but she locks it into her desk when she's at work so nobody can mess with it. But then she has it for going to and from the car, because most of women are usually attacked when they're in a parking lot by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If we contrast, that sort of carry with, let's say, going to the previous topic, the rear pocket, and if anything's uncomfortable over time, you're less likely to carry it on a regular basis, and maybe less likely to carry it, period, if it's that uncomfortable. Where at least with off-body carry, regardless of what type of off-body carry, you're more likely to carry it a lot more of the time, and that means you're more likely to have it if you ever happen to need it. And that far beats it if it's still at home and you're not.
Right. First rule of a gunfight, bring the gun.
Yeah.
My wife has once said somebody was challenging her that she should have it on her body, and she's, "Oh, I'm too little, and where she works it'd be too obvious even if it was a really little gun." But then her answer is, I think, beautiful. She said, "If off body is not a thing for you, then you shouldn't do that." Meaning however you carry your gun is however you carry your gun.
Yeah, I would give them additional ammunition to when somebody's going to mansplain them about it. Like, just give us some stats of where all these guns are being stolen in purses. I mean, I know purses
Right.
get stole, but
Right.
wouldn't the anti-gunners love it? Wouldn't they love to tell women, "Oh, look, your husband was lying to you. Look how many guns are stolen and kills, evil happens."
Right. Yeah. Well, most women, unless they have just crap in their purse, they guard it pretty well, because if you ever lost a wallet or a purse or something like that, I mean, with credit cards and Social Security cards and driver's license and just the vast number of things that can be in a purse or a wallet, You know, I mean, look at regardless of I lost my gun, look at the hassle.
I see the issue is not so much being theft as is it being much more if a woman carries too much stuff, whatever that stuff happens to be, and then having a negligent discharge.
Well, that's why you have a concealed carry purse.
Right. But unfortunately, not every woman is willing to make that investment.
And unfortunately, well, most women don't carry their purse the way they need to in order to protect their thing.
Right.
It's just like G said with women setting them down. Women set them down all the time. So you've got people that do things responsibly and in a proper way, and then you've got people that you don't, and that runs the spectrum no matter what we're talking about.
But that's the sort of thing that we want to promote is the proper way of if you're going to carry off body, carrying it properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Responsible is the way I put it.
Yes. Yes. Responsibly.
Women putting guns in their back pockets. I'm against it.
Well, most of them have their cell phone back there, right? So
That's true.
Can't do that. Yeah. Unless they got that little cell phone, maybe they can switch over to the little cell phone pistol that is out now. Maybe that'll work.
Talk about printing. I mean, I could see a woman's cell phone in her back pocket from like 30 feet away because half of it's hanging out of the pocket.
Well, shame on you, Dano, for looking at the cell phone. That's all I got to say.
Exactly.
There's better things to be looking at, buddy.
All right. Well, I don't know what we're going to accomplish. And unfortunately, I'm going to throw this in there. One of the things that prevents us from ever exploring it, even if it was considered a good idea, is the stupid NFA. So the NFA says that anything that doesn't look like a gun has to be registered as any other weapon. So canes and wallets and pens, right? If a thing looked too much like a cell phone, if it didn't unfold, that would be a DOW. Would require the burden of registration and tax, but then also the burden of where you can carry that thing and when, and then the repercussions of having to have your tax stamp potentially and all that. So they really make it a difficult thing. You could have a small enough firearm to probably, potentially be useful. Let's say you're somebody like Midnight, right, where he's standing up his whole shift. He might sit down for a break here and there, but if something, if he needed something, a back pocket might be a useful place for him. He might have an apron on or whatever going on in front of him. It's not appropriate to reach forward, right? But because of the NFA, you can't just have a real.
Yeah, and look at the advantage that I think you would have with something like that, with a situation where if there was a higher likelihood wherever you were at of a mugging, and the guy coming up with a knife or whatever, he says, "Give me your wallet." Well, you're going through the normal motions to give him your wallet, but that's not what you're fixing to give him.
Right, and that's why.
So you're not giving anything away by doing that. Whereas if you were pulling up your shirt for appendix carry or 3 o'clock or that's not necessarily consistent with going for a wallet.
No, exactly. I think that's why they invented those, because of that. You're going to do your night drop or whatever, and somebody says something, sure, let me grab that out of my back pocket for you, and boom, there's lethal consequences for that. But I don't know. I don't know what the perception was there, or if it was actually going after wallets as much as going after canes or something. But either way, let's blame the NFA for preventing the technology. Because imagine what Taurus or one of these other creative companies might do if that wasn't a burden, if they didn't have to comply with that. Such a stupid.
I think it's more they tried to solve a problem that didn't exist.
Right. And they did it in such broad strokes that it hindered any development that way.
Right.
But like you say, that makes a good point. Having something, like ideally a little 25 ACP, 32 ACP, something in center fire, something that's a semi-auto, but then in your pocket. And then I say small like that because that means that it's narrow and small, and it's not going to be a super big bulge in your pocket or bother your back too bad or whatever. But like you're saying, if you're going into some place or whatever, you can have that as your third gun or something. Like, that's the problem I have with it is, sure, you wouldn't want to carry there only, but if you got the gun, why not throw it in your back pocket also?
Yeah, that's true.
Or like some kind of pen or something.
Oh man, that'd be better. Pen in your pocket and be able to get a get off of me type of shot. And we don't talk about enough. We always, again, right now, there's this like perception that everything has to be self-defense against another human being. There are bad guys, but there's less bad guys than there's been almost in all of history. We do still have the occasional rabid raccoon or dog that runs up and gets too sniffy or questionable, or I don't know. I wouldn't shoot a dog probably, but you can pop a round off and a dog's probably going to run away. And I don't know. You have problems with like other wild critters where people might live out. Javelina comes running through town or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. So I guess we don't carry on too all night long. We'll look at the member of the day, and I don't know if I have one in here today. Oh, we do. It is Mr. Knives. So each day we try to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels, a community we built 5 years ago now. It's 7,000 members altogether, probably 6,000 still on the books, and I'd say hundreds that are active daily. Probably many dozens at this point that are really active each day that check out the site and everything. And each day we try to feature with somebody over there. And today it's Mr. Knives. I think most people probably know who he is if you've been around Gun Channels. He runs open lobbies, rooms like this that he leaves the link out on Gun Channels so that anybody during the day can jump in. He's created an environment that a couple of people who are able to jump in from work, jump in on a regular basis. A lot of people know that the room is open, so they jump in during their cigarette breaks or whatever they have during work. There's people that'll jump in for a few minutes before they go to work or when they get back from school, and it really creates the water cooler that Ghost will often refer to, right? So that people can just know there's a place to hang out. Well, Dano takes advantage of it too. Like, let's say you got a question, hey, I'm debating if I should get this or that. Jump in. You got real human beings who've got some insight. If they don't know, somebody like a dead horse or a pawnery, hey, I saw that 6 months ago. Let me go find that website, or I'm gonna send you over here. Mr. Knives taking care of it. You can buy it. Well, you used to be able to buy a Mr. Knives sticker off of the store. I got to shut the store down when I leave. But whenever I get back, we got a new Mr. Knives sticker. He's sitting on a little scooter, and he's got the state of California behind him. Am I doing a series of every state and a mascot from every state from Gun Channels? I don't know, but we have a what do we have? We have an outlaw from South Carolina, and we have a Mr. Knives from California. So who knows? But if you want to support Mr. Knives directly, when the store is open, grab a Mr. Knives sticker. That's $25. $20 of that goes to Mr. Knives. We just PayPal it to him, and it's something that I don't know. Angelina did the stickers for me, and I said, hey, I bet you I can do this, and people would be interested. And sure enough, I don't know, maybe $200 by now, which is pretty cool. Mr. Knives isn't exactly wealthy over there, and he's putting out a tremendous amount of effort on the daily. And thanks to the people that have supported him there. It's not an obligation at any means, but people have helped him out a bit. And I'll let you know that Knives will also buy stuff right back off of me sometimes, so he doesn't keep all that money. He's a good guy.
Yep.
Yeah, he's and he's been doing it for a long time, and it is kind of nice being able to like even just listening to it like during the day. Like I may not have the time or whatever to be able to participate in it, but turn it on like a radio station to see oh, are there anybody participating right now? What's the subject that they're talking about? And so I find it interesting from that perspective too.
I have to give a big shout out to Knives, because I kind of did what Dana was saying, is I used to listen to the chats and I would comment once in a while. And then he's the one that even told me about, I kind of knew what Gun Channels was, but he's the one that convinced me one day to go over to Gun Channels and kind of walk me through how to even join these chats and how to set up the Google stuff and all that. And he's a super helpful dude, and I really appreciate what he does.
Right on. Yeah, one of the people I met when I went over to California, I met up with him. We drove up to this one gun shop, and he got his permit that you have to get in there in California in order to even be eligible to purchase a firearm. So that was pretty cool. The one problem with Mr. Knives, and I think we all know it, but we don't like to talk about it, is that because he has the body shape he has with them stubby little arms and big, like, domed back, is he can't really fit into a windbreaker at all.
And speaking of windbreakers, it's time. It's time. It's time for the Tactical Pop Quiz. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Put your pencils down, limber up your fingers, get that keyboard set right in front of you because it is fine.
Is that really happening? Is this legal?
It's really
Yeah.
happening.
I'm going to suggest that we limit it to people who are watching this hour on the gun channel side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was just going to ask, who would like to be my lovely assistant?
That'll be Gary.
Okay, Gary, are you still awake?
Yeah, of course.
I wasn't sure if the cat had like gouged into your face while you were muted or not.
No such luck. No,
Okay, so have you seen the answer in the side chat?
I have.
Okay, so the question is as follows. Every year, the Gun Rights Policy Conference has an annual event. So the question is, what are the dates of the Gun Rights Policy Conference? And by the way, in addition to that, if you are interested in going, you can still sign up for it. If you are thus inclined.
Free lunch both days and have an opportunity to rub elbows with the founders, organizers, and financiers of all the gun owners' rights groups.
Yes, it's being held in Rosemont, Illinois, which is, although they're saying Chicago, it's actually Rosemont. But it literally is surrounded by Chicago. So
it is O'Hare Airport. There's like Chicago.
We have a winner.
Winner,
J Monty 1738.
J Monty.
J Monty 1738.
J Monty. I can't say the whole thing, but J Monty, congratulations! Today you are the tactical hot shot for today. Congratulations, J Monty.
And since we're doing it unusual, just zap me a address to send something to, and we'll send you something.
Yes, and at this time of night, that really hurt my throat.
I appreciate it. Luckily, might have something cold and soothing to put on his throat later.
Yes, a cough drop would be nice.
So that, if you're not familiar, back in the earlier days of the Daily Gun Show, what are we talking? Probably episodes 200 through 400 or something in there, 450.
Right.
10 months.
There was quite a while we did the Daily Gun Show. We did it in that type of format. We had some fun, and the Windbreakers are a whole another story, but I figured it'd be good tonight. I'm all.
I used to play like a little sound effect of like machine guns, and then I would do that. It's time. And anyway, it's a throwback. And maybe it should stay there. I don't know.
Everybody had a chance today because Angry's sleeping right now and Ponnery's sleeping right now. They pretty much
exactly because they used to nail that thing pretty much. It was like a tennis match between them 90% of the time. And they would guess correctly the most archaic questions I would come up with.
Yeah, it was
old
really
stuff, new stuff. It didn't matter.
Live show being entertaining. That part was entertaining to see us come up with crazy questions and then how quickly they would be able to come up with them. There's no way they were Googling them. It would take longer to type in the search phrase and then to find it than it would for them to come up with the answer.
Like in 1872, for 4 months, such and such gun inventor had an assistant. What was the assistant's name?
So since it looks like people aren't aware of it on the Gun Channel side, on the YouTube side, let's take a second and talk about it again. It's the 33rd annual. So Alan Gottlieb, who is the founder and guy that runs the Second Amendment Foundation, started when he was 24 years old in 1971. He started an organization called the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the CCKRB. And that organization, along with the Second Amendment Foundation, starting in 1984, started to assemble the gun owners' rights groups at the national and state levels, as well as the groups that are involved in different areas of interest, and brought them all together. And each year they alternate between a gun-friendly state and a non-friendly state, and they assemble and they offer 2 days, 2 days and a night worth of, like we mentioned, rubbing elbows with the people that founded these organizations, the people that run these organizations, and the people that fund these organizations. Being there with the people that make these organizations happen it's enthusiasm. What's the word? It's enthusing. I don't know what the word is. It's very a very awesome environment to be in that room. And the first day they will get together and say hello. There'll be drinks and whatever snacks and things so people can be comfortable and chat. The next morning, everything starts up. It's like a seminar. It's like a conference, literally. There'll be usually the conference room of a hotel. It's nice and comfortable, bathrooms and everything available. They'll have a catered lunch. Each of the organizations will take the stage. They'll give you a sit rep of what they've been doing, what's coming up, what they might need, what they can offer. Some of the groups like the doctors or the different areas of interest can take the stage as groups, and they'll again talk about what they're up to. If it's sometimes authors or researchers, they'll give the awards for the sort of like the, what do you call them, the activists of the year and the writer or blogger. They'll have different acknowledgments of people who've been putting forth great efforts. And each day the lunch is catered. It's absolutely free. You're going to walk away with a giant stack of Second Amendment books from the libraries of these organizations, and you'll be able to network and be amongst the most adamant Second Amendment advocates ever. This year it's in Chicago, like Dano said, in Rosemont, which is, if you look at the map of Illinois, Chicago, and then there's O'Hare Airport, the big airport. Rosemont is right next to O'Hare on the Chicago side. So it's literally, like Dano said, enveloped by Chicago. They make it uncomfortable like that every other year so that we, people in Arizona, people wherever state you might be listening from, travel to a state like that. So we experience at least a little bit of what Dano has to deal with every single day. And I think that's healthy. And I personally look forward to it. I go to California unarmed occasionally so that I don't just theoretically know. I mean, it's been a long time since I ever bought one gun on a 10-day waiting period, and I still feel that. So I think it's good that they do it kind of alternating like that. Anyway, we'll throw a link down so anybody that wants to, like Dano said, the still open. You're still able to sign up, and they say that this 33rd year should be the largest turnout ever.
Right. And they don't charge you to register for this. Not
at all. So if you register and you're not able to, no harm, no foul. There's more books, more lunch for the rest of us.
Yep. One thing I'd be interested in finding out is the conference is if they've labeled that building a no carry zone, because by law it's not. It's up to the owners of the conference center or where it's being held.
When are they going to be sending out information? You signed up online. I've got my remember the thing email just days ago, so it was relatively recent that they sent out. Did you get some kind of a letter that said, "Remember, it's coming"? Yeah.
I did not, and in fact, that was something I meant to ask you at some point. Is when did they usually get them out?
Well, that's a good question. I wish I could have gone every single year. I register, but then I ignore it, so I just go. But this year I registered February or January whenever I started putting up the videos on YouTube. Like in January, whenever I knew the dates, I made a video for each month, and then like as a reminder to let people know it's coming and to put it on the schedule. That's when I registered. So I registered. I have you, Clover. It's down. It's being more persistent.
Yeah. You may have stepped away.
Oh, let me mute him. Okay, sorry, Clover. It was being more persistent. Maybe he was fiddling with it right now, or maybe he was talking and it's that bad. Maybe it's dying.
Oh,
we'll find out. He knows how to unmute. All right. So again, thanks for right up. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, you bet. And we we do this show. It goes out to iTunes. It goes out to other places. I don't get it to iHeartRadio. I don't get it to Spotify, but it'll go out to a couple of different platforms. A couple of people listen to this, so I appreciate that you asked the question because that allowed us to mention it again. Anyway, so yeah, that's coming up. Thanks, Dano, for giving us a little bit of the daily pop quiz. Yeah, a lot better. Just FYI, the tactical quiz lives. It's just on a hiatus, but we are planning to bring that back in full speed eventually. But let's move on to what is your CCW? That's an easy one. Let's start with Clover with the recently clear mic.
Primary Glock 42.
Right on.
Yeah, awesome pistol. Very comfortable to shoot, very fun to shoot, which of course, I mean, if you're not comfortable and confident with it and all of that good stuff, what's the point? It's and in being fun, I mean, you get out on the range and shoot and have fun with it. And I mean, anytime you're sending lead down range, that's working on your, you know, working on your skills a little bit. So
Let's expand it since there's only 5 of us in here. What's your full? I mean, you carry more than a gun. So what's your full CCW? What's the stuff you bring
like
along?
the whole loadout. Typically, I mean, you got the Glock 42. Sometimes that switches over to that Taurus protector poly 38. Sometimes I go revolver. For the most part, I carry outside waistband, and then cover it with a T-shirt or something like that because we can open carry here in Texas. So it doesn't really matter if it prints or your shirt rides up. Extra magazine typically in a pocket if I'm going Glock 42. A lot of times I have that. Belt, still using this this True Spec 2-ply range belt. I really do like it. It seems to be holding up. Cigarette lighter for other reasons than just smoking a pipe, but you know, you can put that in your fist. Even kind of gives you something to hold on to if you was to need to. A pen, always great. Pocket knife, and then that varies. My pocket knife varies. It just kind of depends. I've got several that that I kind of rotate through with that. What else? The Gerber 9 multi tool a lot of times, and my what is it? The stream light? I think it's the micro stream, the little 1 battery light. Is that the micro stream? So I've also got the 2 that usually stays on my range bag or whatever in the truck. But the little the 1 battery light in the pocket. So that's pretty much the loadout for that.
Right on. How about Gary?
Well, it's going to be pretty similar. Pretty much every day I've got the Glock 42. I typically pocket carry, so it's in a DeSantis Nemesis pocket holster. And also, like Clover, and I swear I'm not trying to shadow the man or anything, but I do carry a Gerber dime multi-tool in my small jeans pocket also. As far as lights go, I don't typically carry one on body. If I need one, I usually just use my iPhone, but on a typical day that I'm going light and I don't have my backpack with me, that's what I've got on me now. If I've got my backpack, I've got everything on me. But
Oh my goodness, I'm doing everything I can possibly do to not mansplain about that flashlight situation. So we'll move on to Dano.
Okay. Well, for me, it kind of varies whether I'm working or not. If I'm not working, it's a Glock 26 on my hip, and I have a Wilderness Tactical gun belt. It's actually the first gun belt I ever purchased. In fact, G-Webs, you were the one that kind of guided me to them. It's one of those where it's a nylon on the outside with a Kydex in the center. So it's got that Kydex sandwich, so to speak. And
It's almost like, well, Kydex makes me think even thicker. I think it's more like a milk jug type of plastic. It's not, it's because it's not like you're like, oh, I got this belt on. Ouch. It's stiff, but it's not inflexible.
Right. I mean, it bends around your circumference, but it doesn't twist in any other directions.
Doesn't curl like other belt has a tendency.
It's a made in the USA belt. I like that, but I mean, most people you hear, especially with holsters, this has happened to me where I had to buy numerous holsters before I actually found one and discovered what worked with the way I carry in my body type and so forth. But anyway, so Wilderness Tactical belt that I really like a lot. And for a long time, I was searching for a way to carry a magazine, and I've tried a couple different things that different things didn't work about them. And then for when I am working, what I do is I have that same setup. Plus, I also carry a Glock 43 in a vest, so that I have access for different angles for when I'm sitting in a vehicle versus if I'm outside a vehicle. I also carry a Olight flashlight that I can look from, 100 feet away, something like address on a building or something like that. I also carry a Leatherman that I've used for, it's a multi-purpose tool. I've used it for multiple different little things here and there. And it has a knife on it. So, and I've never been trained in the use of a knife in self-defense. I have a knife, but I don't consider that part of my self-defense routine, so to speak, because I have zero training in it. So I don't carry that sort of knife with me. I carry it for utility purposes. I carry my firearm or firearms for if I need to defend myself. And I may have missed something, but I think that's it. I carry a, I guess it's not on-body carry, so I wouldn't say that. Never mind.
That's true, because if we start getting into bags and stuff, then obviously,
yeah,
we'll be here for a while. So, Woods, you're in the West. You're an educator.
Yeah, well, so if I'm at work, that would be none of the guns. But I always park across the street, so those all have to stay locked in my glove box. My everyday carry is my SP 101 because some of us are revolver guys. I like my big heavy gun. Other people can make fun of me, but I like it. And then I've got a little Ruger LCP that I generally have in my pocket, assuming I'm not at school. Flashlight, I lose the expensive flashlight, so I never spend more than about $25, but I get those little Cree ones at the Bass Pro that's about 2 blocks from my house. I've got a little Snap-on multi-tool that's kind of like a Leatherman, but I've had it forever. And the knife I've been carrying is a little Benchmade I've had for a long time. Yeah, that's all. And then a phone, but that's all I can think of.
Right.
The other part about a light is, like, as an example, I primarily work in the evenings when it's either, like, let's say the last 2 hours before sundown and then, into the wee hours of the morning. So for me, a flashlight, I'm using it pretty much every day that I'm working. Where if I didn't work at night, I may not necessarily carry one on a daily basis. But if I was like about to go on a road trip, I would absolutely carry it out there because, through decades prior, I've had to change somebody else's spare tire without a flashlight when it's dark outside. And that can be quite a trick, trying to find, align the what do you call it? The jack to the frame of the car and, things like that. When it's pitch black outside, having a light can be very, very nice.
Even when it's not pitch black out, and if you've done it on like a big lighted highway, that creates a lot of shadow. They put so much light out there to be able to see, going fast, that it's a lot of light. So you can get some massive shadow underneath your vehicle, trying to find, like you're saying, the match-up point or a little nut that fell down or something.
Right.
All right. So I'm also flexible depending on what I'm doing. So if I'm loaded for bear, I got the 41, which is the 45 long slide Glock, which gives me the room for the Surefire light underneath of it, where they still meet up front. In other words, the light doesn't look like an underbite under a shorter slide. And I'm big enough to be able to carry that. I carry that inside the waistband in a holster that was made for me by a guy here in Tucson, a Kydex holster. And then I'll carry a second mag for that one. And then I always carry, and that's if I'm loaded for bear. So what I mean by that is if I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be around stuff that costs a lot of money. I've been to shooting events before. There had to be millions of dollars of guns. I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, to go to SHOT Show, that's $1 million guns, millions of dollars worth of guns. But I've been to just private shooting events where there's been a lot of money worth of guns sitting there, or just a lot of guns, period. Not so much money, but I don't like going down range, even if I'm out in the middle of nowhere, especially when I'm out in the middle of nowhere, actually. I don't like going down range with my empty guns behind me, and I'm not going to bring all my guns with me. So the way that you deal with that is you bring loaded guns down range with you, so that if someone decides this is the time to run out and cause trouble with your stuff, whether it be your dog or your kids or whoever else is back there by the firing line or your stuff, then you've got at least something to deal with that. So that, and if I'm, you never know what's going on. So I like two guns. So I'll have the Glock 41 on me, and then I always have the 357 LCR in a pocket holster. So Safariland, kind of just a clamshell looking thing that it covers the gun so it doesn't get full of lint and whatever, and it covers the trigger, but I can just pull it out of there and I can reholster it. More importantly, I can put it back in my pocket and reholster it without having to fiddle with anything. I usually carry a knife, a pocket knife or whatever. I don't live in a fantasy land where I'm knife fighting anyone, so I'd rather have two guns and no fighting knife. I don't have fighting knives. So I keep those at home for looking at. And then light. I definitely am a big advocate of lights. In fact, I would probably feel less comfortable without a light than without a second gun. I live in a world where it's dark half of the time, and I go into places that can be dark all the time. So, I mean, if you've been in a place with the lights went out before where there's no lights, it gets pretty dark in the middle of the day. So I like having a task light, and depending on the situation, something more sizable, something with two CR3123s, something with, what is that, 6 bolts. So that can throw out some massive coverage. I see big potential. You go out into a parking lot and there's some dude standing there and you're not sure what, and you're not gonna not go to your car. You're not gonna go call the police because there's some guys standing there. But if you accidentally flood them with a 500 plus lumen light, they know that you're somebody who has a light on, if nothing else. And if they all look up and they look like they're minding their business and they're offended that you even looked over, you've got data. If they look up and they look like a bunch of cockroaches that scurry, you've got additional data, right? So I like flashlights. I like them a lot. We'll mansplain flashlights in the future because of you guys.
Yeah.
But multi-tools is something I don't carry, and I know a lot of people do, but I think I used to when I was a kid. I didn't carry a gun so much. And there was a time when I didn't carry a gun. We didn't have constitutional carry here. I didn't have my CCW permit. I would carry a Leatherman back then for just what Clover said. You put a sizable piece of metal in your fist, and you got a lot more potential, and you just feel more able, right? It's like having a pair of gloves on. You're no different. It's just that now all of a sudden you can tackle difficult jobs because you got a pair of gloves on. If you're holding a roll of quarters, that's one thing. But if you're holding like a Gerber multi-tool that's closed or whatever, then in your hands, it's confidence, and there's all kinds of things you can do with that.
Something that I also really liked about going to 2 guns instead of 1 gun with a spare magazine is, let's say that I get pushed down to the ground, I'm on my back. Well, because I carry 2 and they're drawable from 2 different physical positions, one I might be not be able to get out easily, yet the other one is on my chest. So now it's still not difficult to get it out. If I need it, because the other reason for having, whether it be a second gun or a spare magazine, is in case you have a problem with your primary magazine. It's not that you're going to need 30 some rounds for the fight, because if you do, there's something else going on. It's in case of a failure, of a magazine failure.
Yeah, or something happens and you just dropped your gun in the lake. Like, dang. It still works, but it's at the bottom of the lake right now.
Yep.
Hosh jumped in from California. Thanks for joining. We started an hour late, so we're still mid-show right now. We're talking CCW loadout.
Nice. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, I saw that. I think I mentioned it before. California, particularly LA County, not very friendly to CCW. Although at the times I do carry, which there are times where I do carry, I generally carry a Ruger LCP, something that I can put in a pocket. I also have known to have 2 guns, and that's sometimes an NAA revolver. I know that's not the most perfect thing. My wife just walked in. She's standing next to me. And I have a whole other bunch of stuff I carry, but obvious reasons, there's certain limitations if you don't have a CCW in California.
Yep.
Or the county you're in.
We've been talking full loadout, though, so knives and lights.
Oh, okay. So let me switch around here. That's the advantage of having so many damn cameras. That's the wrong camera.
One of the things I forgot there when I started saying phones, because I didn't say phone either, but obviously I think we all carry a phone, right? I've been, ever since Jaeger's first aid class, and people that listen to this know I'm a big fan of Jaeger. He's personally been a friend of mine since at least 2004, and has helped my projects out immensely. He's a salt of the earth, excellent dude. I know he's got some crazy perceptions out there. Doesn't matter. his first aid class. I'm a nationally registered EMT. It's expired, but I've gone through EMT class and gone through Jaeger's what do they call it, immediate action medical. And
Yeah.
I've always gone back when I was a young Eagle Scout, just a whippersnapper. I heard some advice. If you cannot remember the name of your last first aid instructor, it's time to take another first aid class. So if that means going to the fire department and taking a first responder type of thing that they do as like a little certificate for, like, you know, childcare, or for a restaurant manager or somebody like that, or if it's something more substantial at a community college, maybe a semester's worth of EMT prep or some other kind of medical there. If it's Red Cross, if it's anything, whatever you want to do. That was one of my little tips I heard back in the day. And then when I lived that, if I am no longer able to remember my last instructor's name, I take another class. And so I've taken multiple classes over the years. For a little while, I dabbled with the idea of being a wilderness EMT, which is which is not a paramedic. It's an emergency medical technician. So I was going to be a wilderness EMT, which is just a little bit more hardcore than a regular EMT, but without having the responsibilities of a paramedic, which I did not have any interest in pursuing a career in medicine or whatever. I just liked acquiring the skills, and it's a way that you can help maybe as a search and rescue volunteer, or, you know, any emergency service type of volunteer or something. Anyway, so I've taken a couple of classes towards that, and Jaeger's immediate action medical is the same as his firearms classes. I can tell you about the immediate action medical. There's certain things about the firearms class that I would be taking from you if I told you about them. It's not that they're secrets, but there's learning points that if you know about them ahead of time, you no longer can learn from them. So
and not all of his classes have that aspect or those aspects in them.
But a couple of them do, and that's why I remain vague about it. It's not because I'm trying to entice anybody to go there. It's just that I don't want to ruin it if you ever do go there, and I just think it's douchebaggery to ruin someone's experience at all. And we do these things like we talked about before. They go online and they exist. So I'll never talk about those things. But on the immediate action medical, I can tell you what you are going to experience. Number one, you're going to go into a room with a bunch of other people, and you're going to be grabbing people's testicles. You're going to be grabbing them up in the crotch. You're going to be touching them on every single part of their body, and other people are going to touch you. That might sound weird or whatever your problem is with that. We all have those problems. But a real medical class is going to teach you how to apply a tourniquet correctly and in the right spot. And that means getting into what we consider in a normal day-to-day and appropriate places. But I'll tell you what, if you're my friend and I go down, I expect you to move my nutsack out of the way to see if a 223 round went up into my crotch and is somewhere up into my abdomen. I expect you to know how to do that. And I'd expect you to assume that I can do the same for you to save your freaking life. So it's that kind of class. You're going to not only learn some like straight to the bone, hardcore medical stuff, including stabbing needles through ribs. Like they're going to bring in a slab of raw ribs from pork or whatever it is. And you're going to learn what it's like to feel the tactile release when you get through the meat. You know, you're going to learn what that sensation is. So the first time you're learning that sensation isn't on your, I don't want to get too emotional, but on someone you love. You're going to learn all that, and you're going to experience it. And then you're going to take it out into the whatever situation they've got at every place I've been. It's been indoors, but wherever you are, they're going to then take you through real fire scenarios with blue guns or simunition type of rounds. And you're going to then do that first aid stuff while you're getting shot at, while you're in a Kobayashi, whatever that thing was.
Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, where there's a no-win situation. You're going to be under fire with your loved one dying, and you're going to experience the frustration of not being able to do anything. It's beyond what you're ever going to really experience, but so that you can actually experience what first aid is. The closest thing I've ever seen is a course where they mentioned first aid. So a shooting course where they mentioned first aid. But Jaeger's class is freaking awesome, and I've never heard anybody who's explained a class that's any better. So there might be, I just don't know of them. But anyway, ever since I took his class, what I'm getting at is I carry a tourniquet. He made excellent points in there. Everything hit right to the bone, and we carry things to pop holes. We've heard this before, so you might as well carry something to stop a hole. Great. Why you have to pop holes in the first place? You don't just pop holes because you're angry and somebody took your parking spot. It's because somebody's hurting you or your loved ones. So if somebody's hurting you or your loved ones and you've taken care of it, let's take care of your loved ones, right? So there's a lot of complicated or fancy looking tourniquets. There's development in tourniquets big time right now. We live in a really exciting time because tourniquets went from something you never use to something that has application. And I find the best one personally for me is the SWAT tourniquet. It's just a giant rubber band all folded up. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes, maybe a little thinner. For me, it fits in pockets real easily, ankle type of stuff. And I didn't mention that, but I do carry a SWAT tee pretty much anytime, because you can be in a, like Daniel said, you can be in an auto accident, you can have a dog bite, you can have a kid fall off a tree or something and have use for that. The SWAT tourniquet I like because it's rubber, it's just a rubber band. I could use that on the dog if the dog had a problem, or paw or something. Anyway, so I didn't mention tourniquet before, but that's one of those things that lately people have been more aware of that, and I just want to make sure that we touch on that. Now Kosh can go.
Yeah, I didn't mention anything on that subject soon because I carry a little kit with me wherever I go, but it's not on my body. Like I not only take it to the range with me, and then it's literally sitting right next to me in case I ND myself in the leg or someone else does something, but in case I'm driving down the road and I come across some car accident.
Yeah, my whole med kit stuff is it's in the truck. I mean, and it's usually really close, but yeah, I fail when it comes to, on body carry.
The easiest way to prove that is right now you need to make a tourniquet. I mean, good luck. Even if you got a belt on, good luck trying to apply that. I mean,
Well, that's a good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah. I really need to get one of those SWAT tourniquets.
What do you
I
think
don't
of
want to get all bad about it, but the little kid has a lot less blood than us. They bleed out way faster than us.
Sure.
What do you think of the CAT tourniquet, the CAT one?
That's what I prefer. It's what I carry on my AR-15. I have one on my stock with bungee cord, not bungee, but 550 shot cord.
Mm-hmm.
I carry them on my bags, same way, so that they're outside of any trauma kit. I only carry trauma kits. I don't carry anything called a first aid kit or a boo-boo kit. I don't own Band-Aids. I don't care if you get a scrape, go deal with it at Walgreens. We all live within walking distance of a Walgreens. I don't live within walking distance of EMT, so I carry a tourniquet, clean gauze, and maybe more gauze. Or something.
But let me just address that for an issue. I've been on a range. In fact, it was down at Tactical Response where I was bleeding down my arm, and if it wasn't for that kit I had in the back, they had nothing to stop the bleeding in my hand. So I had to self-treat, and I was able to do so. But carrying some of those basics, having some 4x4s, having some stuff to to clean out the wound that doesn't necessarily need stitches, but it's still bleeding, because certain parts of the body you bleed like a stuck pig.
Sure, but that's the kind of stuff you can keep in a vehicle. I'm talking for your immediate dying. It's just all blood. We don't. I mean, you can die from not lack of air, but that's not a device.
Right, but you don't want something where there's no access to clean water. You can't flush out the wound on a gun range.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, but I guess on the body type of thing.
I've got a question with it, the tactical medical training or whatever. Do they go through all the CPR stuff as well with that?
No. You don't have
handle any of that.
No, it's not a first aid class. It's immediate action medical. So it's all holes and holes. That's
Lacerations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not like this is a full first aid thing. No, it's just like military training. Military
stopping blood, basically.
That's the only thing that you're going to die from. You're going to die from, 3, 3, and 3. You're going to die in 3 minutes from air, 3 minutes, whatever it is. 30 seconds of, what is it? 3 minutes?
3 minutes for air, 3 days for water, 3 weeks for food.
Oh, no, it's something. But anyway, air is totally different. You don't carry anything for air. I mean, you open up an airway with your fingers or with body adjustment. You don't die from not breathing. At least you don't really treat somebody's dying from not breathing. However, bleeding into any kind of major artery, you bleed out as fast as your heart can pump the blood out. So that's where a tourniquet can be a massive, but not the tourniquet. A tourniquet is only applicable to legs, arms, and sometimes like a shoulder or a neck. But mostly it's, there is some airway. I shouldn't say that. You do stick a nasopharyngeal thing down your neck or down your nose. But because that's an easy thing to carry. That's about the only thing you can carry as a regular person. You're not going to start going down their throats and stuff. But mostly it's gauze, clean gauze, accordion style gauze. clogging holes is what it's about. But really, this is about gunfights and the aftermath of a gunfight, and that's holes. So they don't care about blisters or how to treat sunburn or anything as casual as any of that stuff. And CPR just falls into that. CPR is somebody who's having a heart attack or some kind of a major shutdown inside themselves. Not so. I mean, you might go into shock or something, and they don't get into that either. Very briefly, it's really just immediate action medical. So it's I should say it's not a complete first aid class at all, and they'll preface the whole thing with that. It's really just the down and dirty. Let's stop somebody from getting bled out, and then at the same time, you're never going to go to a medical class where you're getting shot at. Like just having to add that additional level of stress, the engineered stress, makes you see all the failures you have, because everybody sees a tourniquet and goes, "Oh, I got the concept. That's easy." I've been to some medical classes from Chappie back in the day when it was Cav Arms was having some issues because Cav Arms used to have their receivers made off-site with the variants, and the ATF came and said, "Nope, that's no good," so they shut them down. Cav Arms is a big company here in Arizona that was Second Amendment advocates. They supported a lot of shooting teams, youth shooting teams and things. So a lot of people came to their defense financially, and one of the things that was done was a kind of a benefit first aid training, and that was with Chappie, a SWAT cop out of California who now runs EAG, I think. And that was one of the first times I've experienced, even in EMT school is nothing, because the EMT school is like being in a hospital. It's like procedure, and it's like, learning everything. This was apply this tourniquet to yourself. And that was the first time I had somebody say, apply this tourniquet to yourself. So good luck trying to apply a tourniquet to yourself if you've never gone through it before. The last thing you want to do is try to apply a tourniquet to yourself for the first time. That's a skill that takes a bit of figuring out to do it right and to do it well. And even in that class, nobody's moving up testicles aside to get it, or at least getting into that level of intimacy. But yeah, when your friend goes down and it's because shots have gone off, and you don't, number one, how do you do the triage? How do you detect it? And then two, where do you start looking? So I mean, it's a one-day class, so I'm not going to suggest you come out of it as an EMT. I'm just saying, as far as having experienced EMT in other classes, they take the extract, the stuff that you need for a firefight, a gunfight, and drop it on you in mass, 100%, no filters, stuff that you're never going to need. But by understanding what the processes are, you're better able to facilitate the medical people that do show up. And in an austere situation, you could potentially at least not experience it for the first time. You know what it should look like. So if you have to wing it because there's no other option, you're not qualified, but at least you've seen it done before. You've experienced it more than just theoretically had it mentioned to you in a class one time.
Now, do you say get that type of immediate training? I'm echoing for some reason. Is that me? On top of like the first aid CPR stuff?
Oh yeah, only people that really, really want to know what the real deal is should bother with immediate action medical. I'm not suggesting it's for everybody. I mean, somebody's mom.
I've had the first aid CPR stuff for a long time, and my thing is, the odds are far greater that I would be out on the range and a friend, clutch his chest and hit the ground, or a kid, trips and breaks a bone, or something like that. That would be more usable, I guess.
Sure.
Odds are it would be used more. Yeah.
It's not a replacement for anything. It's just taken the advanced level of what would happen with a gunshot.
It's in addition to the Red Cross CPR and first aid would be immediate action medical. In addition to.
Well, let me give you that. If you have the option of a local community college that does EMT, take classes there first. Red Cross, shit, I don't like Red Cross. If you have a next option, take Wilderness EMT, because sometimes those are like 8-hour classes instead of 8 semester hours. But take real medical training. Red Cross stuff is obligatory. Like, I need to do my daycare job, and they go first aid, and then they give you a CPR dummy, and then you got your call.
And the curriculum is politically driven, you're right, but they are nationwide and everywhere. That's why I mention it.
I hear you. I'm just saying you're going to be dissatisfied. You're going to be bored. It's like going to
you're going to leave the class, because I've taken them a couple of times. Last one was 2 years ago, so I'm about due to take it again. But you're going to leave it wanting more information than what you got. But at least you got something versus nothing.
Now, Now, let me say, if you've got kids, then shame on you if you haven't taken the Red Cross
Right.
CPR, because for that, it's brilliant. You definitely want experience working on a dummy or knowing what everything to do for every size kid, because as soon as the kid starts growing, it's different CPR all along.
Yep.
Our insurance actually had us go to the hospital and learn with nurses before we had our first kid. Like that was part of their training they offered. It was pretty cool.
Was it like you have to, or like here's an option for you?
It wasn't one of those like have to things, but it was like suggested over and over and over. And we were pretty proactive, so we were like, yeah, of course we're gonna take this. But yeah, they gave you different dummies of different kids as they get older, and you go through, and it was not just choking, it was other, topical first aid. They didn't go down to tourniquets though. That's probably the level.
But choking is far more common thing to actually happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they went through Heimlich and all that. I mean, yeah, okay. I don't want to get off the topic. I like what Gios was saying about the tourniquet stuff, and I agree that basically everything other than that is kind of in a different realm. It's like a Venn diagram, right? They touch on the edges there, but that's a different kind of skill, right? Particularly if it's in the heat of the moment.
For sure. That's like the long range precision shooting. If you decide to go that way, go for it. There's value, but it's not like everybody who shoots needs to take that level of skill.
Right.
But it's definitely, just to say, I guess I was just saying, the reason why I started that whole thing is because that was such an, I don't want to call it inspirational, it was such an eye-opening class, though, that I've carried a tourniquet since. Like I say, it's so easy. It's just a wadded up piece of rubber in your pocket. The only thing that is bad about it is I keep getting transmission fluid on it, so I had to get another one.
Which one's that? The SWAT one?
The SWAT. I had it in my pants that I usually wear have like pockets down by your ankles or whatever, like leg pockets. So I usually keep it in there. Whenever my van was dying, I had transmission fluid soak into it and everything. But so they're perishable. You want to move. You asked about a cat before. They're more clunky. They've got a metal windlass and stuff. So like there's a big clunky thing to it. So I don't mind having it on my gun. I don't mind having it on my backpack that I carry everywhere with me in the van. And I don't mind having it on my range bag. But because it's so clunky, I don't carry it. It's too big. It's like carrying around a giant flashlight from the olden days.
Yeah, there's a guy I follow on Instagram. He's like a survivalist dude, and he would do comparison videos between it's not the SWAT, but it's a similar one it's like an elastic band. It's not a fat band though. It's like a thick kind of band.
The stretch wrap.
Is that what it is? Maybe.
And it looks like a big red stretchy cord.
Yeah, and it's got this weird thing that looks like a pool cue bridge towards one end of it. Okay, yeah. So he was like, I don't ever carry this anymore because if you ever only had one hand, you're not going to be able to really be effective with it. So that's why he carries the CAT tourniquet. And I'm like, I can see what he's saying, but again, it's like you can't have both. It doesn't mean you can't have, one or the other.
Or we still haven't gotten to Hosh's EDC here or his CCW, but Caleb said, do you guys have any suggestions for someone who's short on time? Any online classes or anything? That's a good question.
Yeah, FEMA.
Panteo. I bet you they have some.
There's a YouTube channel. The guy does a lot of just do-it-yourself medical things called Skinny Medic.
Oh, Skinny Medic's good.
He's in the past couple of years, he's also gotten into an online store. You can or cannot go down that road, but I'm talking about just how to use the equipment, period. Like
if you're talking about online and actually getting, a card certification, you're worried about, having a credential. American Heart Association, you can opt to do that online, and it's pretty comprehensive. And they have first aid along with the CPR and even an outdoor first aid and quite a few other things. And then you've got to go in once you do your online, then you schedule with a local person that's like giving the all day class or whatever. But all you do basically is go in and you demonstrate the skills.
That's pretty cool.
And then you're done. Yeah. So you go in like at the end of class, right? they'll tell you, oh, come in from, the class is from 9 to 3. So come in at, 2, be here at 2. And then, you just go in and you do CPR on the baby and on the toddler and on the whatever. And then you got to apply a tourniquet and use an EpiPen and, splint a leg and that sort of thing.
I was going to say FEMA. FEMA has a ton, a literal ton. You could spend weeks and weeks. You could spend weeks and weeks.
Federal emergency.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, you will end up in a death camp. It's guaranteed. But at least you'll know how to, like, you know, help some people right before they get killed.
No, but I mean, that's literally, it's our federal emergency medical or emergency something. It's not association.
I don't know what the acronym stands for, actually.
Agency maybe, but anyway, it's the government branch that's designed to
Emergency Management Agency.
Okay, so it's anyways. I'm saying it's the government department or bureau or whatever that's tasked with educating the public. So they're literally, their job is to offer that type of information, right?
Now, are they offering it online? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, it's online, and I mean, I don't want to splash the ham radio thing, but a lot of the emergency response ham radio groups, like ARES and RACES, they actually kind of require that you take some of the FEMA classes. And I know that when I took my CERT training, which is Community Emergency Response Training, they highly recommended some of the FEMA classes. Oh, there you go. Federal Emergency Management Agency. John Z. Got it. 10 internets to John Z.
All right. Well, we got off on first aid, but man, that was kind of a neat branch. So what's Hosh's
So I don't have my medical kits here, but we looked at them in another video, and G-Web's promptly said that it's a glorified boo-boo kit. I understand that. I have since added tourniquets, and I have a cat, and I did not go with the SWAT tee. I actually got 2 cats. That's not to say the SWAT tees wouldn't work. I'm just, you know, that's it. I also have Israeli dressings. What do you think about those?
I'm a super big fan. I really, really like them. Good, strong packaging and well thought out, useful.
Now, could you use that as an improvised tourniquet?
Yes.
If you have to. It's not strong enough, but yes, if you have
to. Yes. It is considered a secondary, like let's say you're using it as a pressure dressing, and then you got it down, you got it tight, and then at that point you realize it's not enough. You need to go to switch. Well, instead of undoing it, loosening the pressure on the wound, you make a couple adjustments at the end. In fact, I bought one simply to train on, and then a couple for myself and a couple for my son. And he's out in California right now at Yosemite and just saw his first black bear. But showed him exactly how to use it, reverse it, use that little clevis device. And then how to also,
that's what it's called, a clevis device, yeah.
At the very end, what to do differently if you go to lock it down, and all of a sudden, it's that pressure dressing is not enough. You actually need a tourniquet. How to turn it into a quasi tourniquet.
Is that where you kind of like fold it over and pull it tight over the area?
A visual rather than me trying to describe it would do much better. In fact, that's rather than me just showing my son, we sat there together and watched the YouTube video together, and then started, stopped it, so that he could fully understand each step, the placement of it, how many inches, in regards to the location of the joint, location of the wound, what to expect, understanding you've got 90 seconds starting 3 seconds ago. But yeah, I really like, and there's a newer version of it out that actually has a double pad.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you're aware that of that.
And if you ever see them on sale, they'll expire, right? The packaging,
yes,
the expiration date. So find expired stuff. It's super cheap, and like Dana said, bust them open and play with them, use them.
Yeah, I mean, it's you get them for like the 4 inches, like maybe $6.99. The 6 inches, maybe a few bucks more than that. But you're going to truly understand how to use it. You're going to have to open one up. So just assume that one is going to be, and you can use it, 5, maybe 6 times, and then the fabric starts, tearing itself apart because of the way it works.
Yeah. It's kind of by design. You start stretching the crap out of it. I mean, it's not there to be a permanent solution.
Exactly. It just, unfortunately, they don't make a training device, and nothing's better than the real thing, because then you know what to expect.
Right.
And it is reasonably affordable, so why not?
I I want to second one thing that I have actually used before. I've used rolls of gauze before and actually treating a wound, but the Z packs or the accordion pack that G-Web's mentioned is a better way to go. Highly recommend it.
Pants is saying, how about a chest seal on an advanced kit? Chest seals cost like $35, so you can improvise them with the plastic packaging and some tape, depending on what the situation is. But most people can't diagnose tension pneumothorax and aren't interested. So chest seal for most people is like concept of having something for yourself or others that you're going to hand to someone who understands what to do with it. But basically what we're talking about is one lung collapses inside your chest cavity and creates a weird pressure thing. And if you've got bleeding and stuff, it's a way to release pressure. And then since you're not going to be able to cure that, you're only able to alleviate some of the discomfort and make them able to breathe. You're going to basically create a valve, and a chest seal does that really nicely, like an EMT or a paramedic would want. But that requires the chest seal, which is basically like a pancake made out of surgical tape looking stuff. You can't wad that up like you can gauze, which can be malleable and squished, and you can step on it and nobody really cares as long as it doesn't get unsterile. Chest seals are kind of tricky, so they're expensive and you don't really want to fold them. So they don't really lend themselves to trauma kits. I tend to disregard trauma kits that have them in there only because that adds a lot to the price. And unless it's put in there in a way that it's going to stay good, I leave that to a more advanced trauma kit. That's just me personally. I know a lot of people do carry them, and it's different if you're in the biz and you don't pay for stuff. You know, if you're you have access to a paramedic's kit, you know, you're not paying $35 for a chest seal. That's a little bit different.
I know that I think somebody already mentioned it, but you can use the Israeli bandage as a chest seal. But I do want to show this. Where the hell is it?
That's you're actually not using the Israeli dressing. You're using the packaging.
So I do want to mention
you might as well use duct tape.
I do want to mention one thing, and this is something I learned from hikers that go on through hikes when they're out there for hundreds, if not thousands of miles. They carry a roll of what's called Leuco tape. Are you familiar with this, G-Webs? Have you used this before?
I don't know. So it's like gauze or?
No, it's like a surgical tape. It's like a pretty thick woven cloth tape. But this thing, when you put it on somebody, it doesn't come off. It really seals up really, really nice. And we use it for our kids as makeshift Band-Aids because they can't rip them off.
I don't know what the application would be. What do they use it? Do they use it to bind an ankle? Or what?
No. When they get like a blister and a blister pops and they need to have their shoe riding on it day in and day out for hundreds of miles, they use Leuco tape.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, instead of moleskin.
Moleskin being a buck, why wouldn't they just? I mean, if you're going to be out,
if you're walking for long enough, moleskin's just not going to last. You're going to be pulling your shoes off every couple of miles to swap it out. This stuff lasts forever. Like this stuff is awesome. Leuco tape, Leuko.
Yeah, I was not aware that moleskin was that ineffective. That after a couple miles, it would come right off.
Oh yeah, it's designed for like regular people in their normal shoes. So when you put it on, I always have to tape it on anyway if I'm really using it.
Well, yeah, I just assumed that. I mean, the adhesive I always assumed was just to hold it on until you put tape over it.
Oh, okay. Well, that might be actually.
No, you're supposed to put the moleskin on the wound.
Right.
Okay.
And then the tape over the moleskin.
Yes, and possibly some kind of padding between the tape and your skin or whatever.
Well, yeah. If you don't have enough moleskin, yeah.
But still, I mean, I don't know how much you've used that stuff, but even when I was in Boy Scouts, that stuff wouldn't fit the bill.
All right, well, let's talk about this stuff you got on the table here.
Yeah, so only half of this stuff is probably in line of what we're talking about. I'd say my light, which is just a CR123 light. It's the copper light made by Meritac. It's not a clicky, but it's 3 modes. I like it. I've had this thing for years. My, what is this? The RCS Tool lockpick. I do actually carry this. Possibly not always directly on my person, but it's always in a bag that I carry, and I'm always usually with. Actually, I don't know of times where I don't have my backpack on me, so that's always there. I know G-Webs has feelings on knives, but I still carry my Spyderco Delica Wave, Emerson Wave, patent number on there.
Now, you've received training on how to use it to defend yourself, correct?
I mean, depending on how much value you put in that, yes. I trained in Filipino martial arts for many years.
Because before you jumped in line, we talked a little bit, or at least I did, about I carry a Leatherman that has a knife for utility purposes. I do not carry a knife for defensive purposes because I have zero training in it. And I just feel it would be a waste of my time rather than using the tools that I know how to use.
Yeah. And I think G-Web shares a similar mindset with you. And I don't think you're wrong in that. I don't disagree. And if I had a freer state, I probably would be less dependent on that knife. And I would probably continue still to carry this, which has become like my go-to utility knife. It's a Boker Scout knife, also available on Meritac. The main reason is because it's like the Tinkerer Swiss Army knife, but much better built. It has the Phillips head screwdriver on it, which kind of is the most important thing for me. So that's just easy.
Is there pliers?
No. So actually, I was gonna splash this in too.
Right.
This is usually on my person. I've kind of learned over time that while I like Leathermans, and they work, I like having a proper wrench, and so I've been carrying this Knipex or Knipex, depending on how you want to pronounce it. This is a really, really nice. It's a channel lock, but it's a channel lock with a jaw that's open and closable. So if you've ever worked with a crescent wrench or a channel lock, the problem you get is that they don't move. But this, it locks, and then you have a little bit of play, so you can get on the bolt or whatever, and you could still do fine work if you needed to and treat it like small jaws kind of thing. So this isn't that big.
How much those run?
They're not cheap. I think they're $20 to $30. But you can still easily pocket this if you didn't have a firearm on your person, or it could go in a pouch, and it's easily to carry in a bag. So I carry this, and between knives, that's most of the stuff I need tool-wise if it was an emergency. Otherwise, I've got a full toolkit in my car almost always. Wallet is one of those, what is this? Recycled firefighter fire hose wallets that I've had for years and years. And Apple AirPods. Say what you want about that. The radio, I'll wait to talk about that because that's going to take a second. This is a tripod. You probably don't carry this. I do for videos. Some of you may carry Game Boys. This is a Japanese Game Boy called the Wonder Swan. You may not. This is nerdy stuff. These last two things are both radios. This one's not that big a deal. This is a CW only radio that you probably wouldn't use in an emergency situation for an immediate type sense, but as a survival radio, if you're out somewhere, this is probably the best thing you can have because it's CW only, and if you knew Morse code, you'd be able to reach out farther than anyone. So that's that. I'll leave that on the side though. But the main radio that I carry, and I do carry this on my person, is a Yaesu FT2DR. This is one of only 2 or 3 radios on the market right now that does APRS, which is an automatic automatic position. Man, now amateur positioning radio system. Anyway, yeah, amateur.
So it's kind of like putting a GPS in the radio.
Correct. It has a GPS, and it'll pick up your location, and it'll squawk out where you're at, your heading, your elevation, and whatever sensors it has on board, it'll post out, and it can be picked up online. So carry this. You can turn this on at any time and start beaconing out where you're at.
Now, people, I'm sure, are rolling their eyes and going, oh, my goodness. You live in L.A., and I don't know if you're technically in L.A. or not, but for the rest of us, you're in L.A.
Yeah.
And you can imagine a situation where there's any kind of situation where all of a sudden the phones are going to be glitched and whatnot, and I assume that with something like that, you potentially have ability to call home, reach out, figure out what's really going on, not be at the mercy of the radio and what they're distributing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going into too much detail here. I actually need to make a much longer video on this. That's just one of the features that this has. This has the ability to key up with similar radios and immediately locate how far you are between those other radios. It is still a two-way radio. It also supports a digital mode. That digital mode also features the location kind of setup. So, and that's all two-way comms. It can do text, it can do voice, and if you have the right microphone attachment, you could do images. And it's still, you know, bigger than my phone.
What's it cost?
This is $350. This radio. You do need a amateur radio license to use it, though. There it is, amateur radio positioning system. Thanks, John Z. I don't know why.
Tech license, though, right? You don't need anything special than that.
Yeah, you just need your technician's license. Yeah, and another thing that's cool about this is it's the digital mode that it supports, much like other digital modes, is connected by the internet. So you wouldn't just be talking local. You could do that if you wanted to, but you could talk all the way around the world with this radio. Yeah, it's very cool. The positioning system on it is really nice.
Now, what's going on with that grid you got underneath there? Those are half-inch lines?
Let me see. Yes, they're half-inch lines.
I'm so used to seeing 1-inch ones. Your stuff isn't giant. It's actually on a half-inch grid.
This is a half-inch self-healing cutting mat. So I think that's everything. Yeah, pretty much everything. Wonder Swan, though, is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
Just, you know, for all you nerds out there, you guys don't even know what this is.
So that's
Is it a Game Boy?
It's a Japanese only portable video game machine. Did I show this on chat? My RCS tool. This is the coolest, best lockpick, like jackknife I have ever come across. This thing is awesome.
And how much was it?
Was it $20? Did we look it up online? I think it was $20, and it doesn't come in pink. It comes in blue and gray. I just got the pink one because I don't care.
I mean, if you're saying that it's in good shape or it's a decent quality, the one I have was at least 14, and it's one step above worthless.
Oh, this thing is awesome. Yeah, this is legit. I am very, very impressed by this, and I agree with you that the jackknife style pick sets are garbage.
Well, they can be, but obviously people are putting effort into them, and just like anything, they can get a cheap multi-tool, you can nice multi-tool, super.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on. Well, we've gone all over the place with this one, so that was kind of cool. That's what the show is all about, is kind of taking a topic as a seed and letting it grow. And we started kind of late tonight, so there's still 20 people watching. That's pretty awesome. See, Roll Call just jumped in out there. Let's see what we got on the schedule. Where did I put? I didn't even open the schedule today. I'm just going off the show notes. So we talked about Member of the Day, Mr. Knives. We talked about our EDCs. Well, I guess our CCW kind of EDC. Talked about back pocket carry quickly. And what else do we got here? Gun shop today is just firearms museums in general. Every once in a while, I just like take a step back. I found the awesomest site the other day, and I don't remember what it is. I was looking for new museums on the route, right? I'd just go into Google Maps and start searching. Then I went on Google and just searched for firearms museums and found a couple of resources. They're neat. And I think, let me see if I type in firearms museum, if I can find it while I'm talking here. But this guy was some sort of obviously savvy enough to have built a website. Oh, did I find it on the first shot? Probably because I've been there before, right? Boom. We're going to screen capture. Is Clover still awake? No, we're keeping him up pretty late.
Yeah.
Here. So check this out, man. This guy, anybody ever heard of Ben Nicholson before? No? I don't know if he's a person or not. I never knew nothing about him, but I literally searched for firearms museums, and it was one of the things that came up. He's got this wicked map, and of course I'm like, oh, which ones are these, right? You go down, and oh, here it is. You see this really cool little grid of all these firearms museums. You just really think it's a neat way to set it up. And he's got a pretty decent collection here. A lot of these are on military installations, but a lot of them are others, everything that we're familiar with and more. But what's neat is up here somewhere, I'm going to read his introduction, and this is going to be why I like to focus on just firearms museums in general once in a while like this. Visiting firearms museum is an essential aspect of gun appreciation and collecting. It complements the attending of gun shows and building a library of books on firearms and ammunition. In a museum, the novice and the expert alike will see their own interests set in the context with stored firearms of great quality, storied firearms of great quality, alongside guns that may be unfamiliar to them. A public gun museum or collection can often be visited within a few hours of any location in the U.S. Some of the great collections are grouped together in a region that justifies a trip away from home. And I don't know who this guy is, but wow, that is one of the coolest paragraphs I've read on the internet in a while. And I think that sums up pretty well what I think firearms museums value are in society, especially our society, where we constantly have a battle of whether or not our interest in firearms is valid or even healthy. And I think he says it in a nice, sober, precise way that I found that awesome. And of course, like I say, you find this cool map, so it's like a visual right away pop. Here's where all these firearms museums are. Gives you some more information about them and stuff. And then he has this just wicked cool grid of all the actual museums, so you can get a really quick physical idea how big they are, how they're laid out. You know, you can tell right away if they're in a city or if they're out in the middle of nowhere. Really, really, really cool. Clover, this is the next place we're going in Tulsa. This is that Colt Museum.
Yeah. Sweet.
Okay, so that was our firearms museum. So every day we do the show on a daily basis so that we can feature gun shops. I'm going to be heading out on the road. We'll use this guy's map. I'm going to be leaving Tucson. It sounds more and more like I might be in California next Tuesday. I'm curious to go to that Del Mar gun show public meeting. So I might be in California on Tuesday.
Right on. All right.
We'll come back to Arizona and get my guns. Then I'll go to Dragon Man's. Then I'll go across Nebraska and meet up with Sandhills, Travis, potentially Gary if he can come up. I'll book across Iowa because I don't know anything to do in Iowa. I'm going to check out the Browning Museum, the Browning's Dad's Museum in Southern Illinois. I have an invitation to check out the Rock Island Auction House. Then we'll go, of course, to the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Chicago. The Art Institute has a collection of guns, which I'm curious to take a look at. After that, I'll be heading north to Wisconsin, to Minnesota, either South or North Dakota. Kind of happen to play it by ear at this point. Then into maybe Montana, depending how I come across. But the goal here is to hit Cody, Wyoming, kind of right next to Yellowstone. Buffalo Bill Cody lived there, so it's Cody, Wyoming. And it has the Buffalo Bill Museum. It has the Winchester Factory Museum, or the Winchester Factory collection was donated to the Cody, Wyoming Museum. And that's an amazing collection of guns. So I'll be checking that out. Heading south, I spent some time in Wyoming, so I'm going to take a day off and hang out in Wyoming. Then go down to Utah, Salt Lake City, and see where John Browning, the son of Jonathan Browning, did his magic. I'll have just visited the Cody, Wyoming, where the guns that Browning took out of his shop and brought to Winchester as representations of the patents he was selling. So I'm going to see the guns, and then I'm going to go to where he built them again. From there, I'll probably go down and hang out either in Vegas or California again, and then come back to Arizona for the machine gun shoot, and that'll be the end of this leg of the tour. And I'm hoping in that 48 days, I'm only going 5,000 miles. The time I went to New York to hang out with John out there at the Bannerman Museum, or the Bannerman Castle, I did 11,000 miles in the same 48 days. So this should be significantly less travel, which would give me more opportunity to hit shops. I have some work to do. I have a project that I'm working on that's basically allowing me to even do this. But in addition to that, I'm hoping to hit at least an average of 2 shops a day, and that'll be 100 more gun shops on this tour added to the art collection. And that'll be pickups. That'll be gun shops in Denver, which I haven't been to yet. All of Nebraska, which I've never gotten a gun shop in. Iowa has Brownells, right? I think I'm going to drive right past Brownells, so I'll be able to check out their place. Again, firearms and gun shops and stuff up here. If it works according to my initial schedule, I'll be able to hit a gun show in South Dakota, which I've never experienced. And where was the other gun show? Somewhere down here, maybe there's a gun show. So lots of opportunity to hit more of these gun shops. We talked about it a little bit in Clover's chat. One of my goals with checking out gun shops is, one, to let people know what the uniqueness of these various gun shops are by letting everyone know what's interesting about some of these gun shops. Maybe we give fellow gun shops or sister gun shops some ideas, and hopefully we also foster like an interest in seeking out gun shops. I'm certainly not the only one who can take pictures of gun shops, and I hope this is just to inspire others to start taking pictures of theirs. And once we start once we start realizing that our gun shops are a resource that we can share and be proud of, now there's a reason to travel, and these gun shops have more pride in being online and stuff, and it becomes part of the culture. So there's an ulterior motive to it all, but it's also just a heck of a cool way to experience our Second Amendment and to see the variety of it as you go through these shops. Some of these are going to be long-range hunting shops, I suspect. Some of them are going to be quite different down here in California. And I have no idea what to expect in the middle of the country. I imagine upland birds, maybe. They do a lot of upland bird hunting, probably. I don't think they
probably
do
good. Probably good elk and hunting rifles.
Yeah. So again, there's a little bit of method to the madness. And again, I want to say thanks to the people on Patreon who make this possible, the people on the Indiegogo campaigns that bring in the money to make the things even happen. And then, of course, people that buy stuff at the Gear website store. That's the three ways that I'm able to raise funds to do what I do. I do as much as I can to keep it frugal so that there's no extra funds. I don't spend a moment in a hotel. I don't really go out to eat. And yeah, I'm trying to make as most efficient use of everybody's cash that they donate to this cause. So where did I get at this? That's why we talk about gun shops every day on this show. I really do think they're a vital part of our culture. And too often we dismiss them because they're not perfect or just don't care, and it's frustrating. So let's challenge that and focus on them every single day, because we do that. I'm just preaching to the choir, but you never know, somebody didn't know about the Gun Rights Policy Conference. So I guess that we have to take a moment every once in a while to reiterate the missions of our channels, right? I'm talking a lot today. Getting sick of talking. You guys had me all riled up. I had some great news earlier. I'm able to take the trip, and it's freaking awesome.
You are still riding the wave, mister.
I am. So
high on life.
Is there anything else to chat about? We could blow off history, I think, because we're running so late.
I got my chat tomorrow, but we
right
can
on.
talk about it later.
Talk about what everybody's doing. Clover, you mentioned you've got a guest tomorrow.
Yeah, Modern Spartan Systems.
Ooh.
Targets?
No, they do cleaning and lubrication products.
That's right.
Yeah.
And she said the ham radio crash course is tomorrow.
Yeah, ham radio crash course always on the Friday, 7 p.m. And it's my Patreons decided every first of the month, first Friday of the month, I let the Patreons pick the topic, and they want me to spend more time on the difficult question categories on the general amateur radio licensing test. So we're gonna get in real deep with antenna feed points and radio systems on HF and some circuitry stuff. So it's gonna be a little heady, but hopefully some fun. I'll definitely be cracking some jokes, so it should be good.
Right on. Let me just mansplain that to everybody to be a filter. So ham radio is a bunch of radio frequencies that most of us aren't supposed to be fiddling with, mainly because they're either right next to military frequencies or just, they could be a nuisance if we were just randomly wasting our energy on them. So they blocked them off a long time ago and said, if you want to play with these or you want to use these, you have to get a license. So now they've got a licensing system, and there's 3 levels to that. The first and the expert is the one I was talking about, and then a more advanced one. When you take these classes, there's like 90 questions period for the first, for the second, or for the third, or whatever the number of questions is. But those questions
35. It's like a 400 question pool, but you only have to take 35 multiple choice questions.
So there's a finite amount. There's like, let's say 400 he said questions, and for the level that you're talking about expert, there's 400 questions.
500 for extra, and the test is 50, I believe. But that's the last step, and you really don't even need to go to the last step if you're not really passionate about it.
No, I'm not talking.
The first step, second step is awesome.
For a general. Your chat tomorrow is about general, I thought you said.
General, that's the second step.
Right. So how many questions are on that? How many questions in the pool are there?
I believe that is 400 as well. I believe 35 questions on the
But what I'm
test.
trying to get at is that this is not quite open book, but there's systems, so there's ways to approach these tests. There's 400 questions, and those will be the same 400 questions for, like, let's say 5 years, or there's a certain amount of time that they'll use these questions. So you can look at that 400 questions, and you know that you're only going to get asked 50 of them. So just like any test you might have taken in school, you can look at the 400 anytime you want. You can prepare weeks and weeks or months or days or however much you want. You can look at those 400 questions. So if you take those 400 questions and scrutinize them, you're going to find a percentage of them are going to be easy, obvious, no-brainer. Some of them are like, an example would be, if it's an emergency, who can use a ham radio? Well, guess what? Anybody. Right? So some of them are no-brainers. Some of them are kind of basic. What's a transistor? What's a wire? You know, just really easy tech questions. And then, like Hosh was saying, some of them actually get into to stuff that you're not going to just know or casually have encountered before. So a lot of people will look at that test and they'll know the easy stuff. They'll memorize the stuff that's kind of in the middle, and then they'll usually just run through the test over and over and over until they kind of understand what those questions are, or what the answers are to those questions, without actually bothering to know the theory behind them or the actual tech behind it, because they know that you only have to pass the question. You don't have to know the stuff. So that's great for your strategy of passing the test, and it's super useful. That's what I did to get the technical one. I didn't learn every single thing there is to learn about ham radio. I saw the questions and I practiced the test until I was able to pass the test, and now I have my ham radio. Well, some people aren't satisfied with that. They want to know what the theory is. And what Hosh is offering is a human being not only willing to do this, but then go down to those questions. So immediately you've got somebody who can take away all the questions that aren't applicable and get down to those ones that are difficult, and then talk about theory. Now, if you're going to try to learn some stuff on stuff that you're not familiar with, how do you approach that? Well, ideally, you have a coach or somebody who knows what they're doing explain it to you in terms that you can understand, and ideally you're going to be able to ask that person, did you mean this or did you mean that? Oh, okay, thanks for clarifying it. Now I understand this little step. So that's what Hosh is doing in his ham radio crash course. I think that's an excellent service, and I figured it was worth mansplaining that.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's great. No, and I think the live stream platform is really good for that, because you can ask for clarification on the things I'm talking about. And there's usually not too many people in there that you can actually communicate with me. And often when I do the practice exams at the end of the show, I'll let people answer. I'll let the chat answer, and we'll see how accurate they are.
Right on. And you're creating something. Although you're doing it live for your specific audience, you're leaving behind an archive that your kids will be able to watch if they want to and learn from their dad. So that somebody else can watch 6 weeks from now and pass that test. Or maybe somebody can watch 4 years from now and say, oh, even though I've had it explained to me, this isn't my thing. Now that I understand what it is, I'm going to go skateboard or something, right? So yeah, you're providing a service now and in the future. That's pretty cool.
Sure. And don't get too worried about the test. The first level test, you only there's 35 questions on the actual test you take, and it's a 75% pass rate. So that's pretty good odds. And there's actually phone apps you download that you can take practice tests on. So you kind of use my chats to supplement the practice test, and we kind of go through all the content. It's not hard. There are technical aspects of it, and again, that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow for the second level of the licensing program. But it'll be fun regardless. Thank you.
You bet. Well, thanks for hosting on Gun Channels. I do appreciate that you're putting something over there that is definitely not guns, but it's also in the realm of stuff that a lot of gun people are interested in. And if we were just all boring gun stuff, then it wouldn't be appealing to the variety of people that may end up making Gun Channels what it is. So you're part of that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're actually simulcasting on 4 different services now. So YouTube, Facebook, Gun Channels, and Twitch.
And one of these days we'll bang heads together and talk about some of the other stuff to do with your podcast, because you've been over there kicking butt on that, and some of us have been over here kicking butt on our podcasting, and we're focusing on that so we can collaborate there and hopefully get your message out even further.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I started pitching some of the episodes to podcast, to my podcast hosting thing, and that's just an extra step, editing the audio. You know how it is. You got to do that whole thing.
USMC 1812, new member over on the gun channel side, at least the name I'm not familiar with saying. Any experience with the IMG Polish Held Pup? What does that mean? Oh, IMG Polish Held Pup. Is that a gun? I think we wore everybody out.
Yeah, it is. It's an AK pistol, isn't it?
I'm kind of comatose over here.
I was thinking IMI there for a second, but no, IMG, that's different.
Yeah, I don't have any. I mean, I know what it is, but that's about all I can say.
Radom, Poland. That's a town in Poland, and it's the name of a factory. And
he's saying AK pistol.
Yeah, it's a Polish AK pistol. It looks like, and it says, according to.
It's small dog that comes from the bowels of hell.
So, 100% new parts produced in Radom, Poland. Radom is the name of the town, and it's also the name of a factory. So, I don't know nothing about these, but I do know that there's a difference between being made in Colt, Indiana, and being made by Colt. I think that's the way to explain it. So, I have no idea, but if it's just made in Radom, Poland, that don't mean nothing to me. If it's made on the Radom factory, that's a Soviet-era factory that's probably kicking out decent guns, but I don't know much more than that little insight. But this ain't the chat for that. We basically are not, I don't know, we don't really get into buying decisions on guns like that. We talk typically more about, I don't know, 2A and gun shops and advocacy and just a little bit of nerd stuff, and then, well, like today, EDC crap. So I'd have to get in the mode of AK stuff, and I don't have potential. There is the Red October's coming up here in a minute in October. There's also a AK event coming up in Illinois, I think, or is it? Yeah, it's in Illinois. So if you go on Instagram and check out the Red October and the other one, I forget what the other one is called, but check out the AK events. You're going to find the people that subscribe to those events are very knowledgeable about AKs, and either watch their conversations amongst themselves or search their conversations amongst themselves for that particular AK, and then you'll get like a fly on the wall, some idea of what they say about it, or ask them specifically, and then you'll get, I don't know, depending on who you ask, you'll get more information than I know, because I don't buy new AKs. Okay, so he's saying they're not made in the Radom factory, they're made in a factory in Radom. Again, that's like saying, oh, I'm made adjacent to a company that you've heard of before. Could be made by anybody. Oh, so I don't know if that helped her at all, but see, Clover saying they're made at the factory, so now I'm getting conflicting info. So we don't know. We don't have a conclusive. Everybody's saying the same thing here.
Yeah.
Showing us there.
I thought they were made actually at the factory, but yeah, I could be wrong.
The Radom factory would be like, you know, when the Soviets owned Poland, that's where they told them to make AKs. So they're coming out of Soviet era machinery. The people that own that are called, I can't think of them, it's too late. But yeah, that would be a barrel if it came from there, or an onyx. And that doesn't look like either. That just looks like some kind of Romanian looking thing. So it's something new. It's not a typical military Polish gun.
Well, and they could they not be made in one of the old factories there that's been retooled anyway or something?
That's a good point. I really don't know. I used to have some inside info on Poland, but that was 3 or 4 years ago. So
yeah, because you're talking about just because the shell of the factories there doesn't mean that they are making them on the same stuff or even with the same materials.
Exactly, or the same skilled craftsmen or whatever you call them.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
But, you know, you see there was recently those magazines from Yugoslavia or whatever the countries are called now. And, you know, they showed, there was videos going around of the machines making those magazines. Remember, this is like maybe a year ago already. And it was neat just to watch the magazines being made. But I was looking at the machines that were bigger than school buses that were making this little tiny magazine. It's like, that's some that's some investment in machinery, and it's probably never going to wear out. And I would probably trust any mag that comes out of it, because that machine is the size of a bus, and all it does is make a magazine, like,
Right.
or, you know, a portion of a magazine. Like, it's, I don't know how they're going to break that.
Right.
Probably made millions of them. So that, I don't know. Maybe there's some videos out there on how those are made, and that might give you some insight if it's some guy working on a drill press, or if it's a machine the size of a school bus that looks like some kind of thing out of an old weird movie or something. Yeah, we built an R plant in Radom.
There you go.
Anyway, good question, but I don't provide as much insight as I can give you. Some old-fashioned, dusty info. Well, we're all winding down. I appreciate everybody who stuck around. Kind of a loose show. It's what we do, and we keep a conversation going. We're going to the Gun Rights Policy Conference. It'd be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to interview with a couple of people that I've been researching to fill in some blanks. As soon as I got some time after all that, I'll go back through my 2A history with my new knowledge, and I'll get some contacts and find out, you know, from the people that have long, interesting stories. I'll get contacts from them so that I can follow up with them outside the Gun Rights Policy Conference and fill in some of the gaps. So I'm really looking forward to the next year. And
I do apologize for running out of gas here at the end.
Yeah, no worries. I realized we didn't even start till an hour late or something.
I gotta say, it is actually Dano though that really dragged everything down. I gotta say that. You definitely totally crashed the chat. So Dano, I accept your apology. I accept it. I'm just kidding, buddy. I'm kidding, of course.
So anyway, I'm looking forward to what I'm able to come out with from the policy conference, and it should be the largest one. So I'm going to keep talking about it right up until there, just in case somebody says, "Oh, I do have that weekend off." I mean, I'll drive over there and experience it. Again, it's going to recharge the batteries of those people that are there as much as it's going to recharge yours. With that, I'm done saying stuff over and over again. Does anybody have a quote for tonight?
Oh, Gizzard's got one.
I got one.
Right on.
As long as there are guns, the individual that wants a gun for a crime is going to have one and going to get it. The only person who's going to be penalized and have difficulty is the law-abiding citizen, who then cannot have it if he wants protection, the protection of a weapon in his home. Ronald Reagan.
I can now, gunwebsites.com, encourage you to take a CCW class for a year. Once a month and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.